Another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. And we've got a lot of news and information to talk about with you here tonight on the show. It's Wednesday going into Thursday now, the 6th into the 7th of April, 2011. And we're so glad you could join us here tonight. Tomorrow evening, don't forget, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, a very special presentation of the Global Reality. We will have, as our guest for 2 hours tomorrow night, researcher and lecturer William Henry. WilliamHenry.net is his website. And we'll have him with us tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for a 2-hour presentation. Should be a great show. Looking forward to that very much. And make sure you send your emails over to globalrealityshow@gmail.com and make sure you put in the subject question for William Henry. That way I know exactly which ones are which when I get ready to go to those. And I will do my best to get in those questions to William Henry for you during the broadcast tomorrow. So definitely tune in for that and let everybody know that that's going on. And, it'll definitely be one for the books. It'll be another person that I haven't ever interviewed that I'll get to interview. So that's pretty cool. That's all I've ever wanted to do with interviews and all that is just to, was really just to interview all the people that, I was somewhat interested in their work. I thought they put out somewhat good information. So those are always the people I wanted to interview. And so I've had really good luck interviewing quite a few very interesting people and a lot of big names through the years. And it's been great. And that's why I don't have guests on all the time. I just kind of space it out, and every once in a while I have guests on, but I like to make it. A lot of people like to have guests on constantly. Every show they do, they have a guest. Sometimes it's a well-known guest, sometimes it's not a well-known guest. But I like to, if I'm going to have on a guest, I like it to be somebody, with a big name. And luckily, I mean, I've had really good luck. People have always said yes most of the time. So, and the other ones that no, it's funny. The ones that have said no in the past have been ones that I found out later were probably suspect. Isn't that interesting? Funny how it works, isn't it? I'm not saying every person I've ever interviewed is 100% legit. What I'm saying is that most of, I feel, with the exception of a few, a lot of the people that we've been lucky enough to interview here have yielded good results and good interviews and classic shows and information packed, and that's really all that matters. So not a lot of news today. We've got some stories here. So I'm just going to get through the news very quickly tonight. And then we're going to continue on with our reading of chapter 16 tonight of William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. We also will have Mr. Bramley, author of The Gods of Eden, and some other books as well. We're going to be having him on the show with us. And the date for that show is Monday, the 18th of April, Monday, April 18th, at, I believe, 8 p.m., something like that. I believe it's 8 p.m., yeah. So this should be good. That'll be another good big interview there. So, but tonight, chapter 16, Messiahs and Means, out of William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. So we'll be getting into that tonight. We'd love to hear from you as well. If you have emails, you have topics, you have questions, you have anything like that you want to hear me talk about tonight, please shoot them over to me at globalrealityshow@gmail.com. It's globalrealityshow@gmail.com, and I will get into those and read them on air and Be happy to answer any questions you might have or get into any topics that you might be interested in hearing me talk about. Love to do that. Global Reality Show at gmail.com. Got a few in here. Let's see. We'll get into some of these immediately here tonight. Some of them are pretty good, but we continue to get great mail, so definitely send those in. Also, the website where this broadcast originates from is www.theglobalreality.com. It's www.theglobalreality.com. And yes, Peter Weller is RoboCop. Not to be confused with Paul Weller, the singer. Oh man. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, the website where this broadcast originates from, theglobalreality.com. Please support our work as well. Support has been rather considerably low lately, so we need your support. Everybody, please. Thank you. Shipping banner or donate button. I'd rather use the donate button, but whatever else. But continuing to work on the Secret Right Volume 2, and it'll be out. It'll be out directly. It's still slow coming because I'm still trying to get everything perfected, and it's kind of a pain. I still got to go out and shoot some more original footage for this thing because I just have zero original footage of mine that bothers the hell out of me. I just didn't have a lot of things in this film that really required me to shoot a lot of my own original footage. So, but it kind of seems bare without it. You know what I mean? It's just, it kind of seems, I don't know. It just kind of seems like you're sort of seeing too much of the same thing throughout the whole film has been the problem that I'm having. And that's what I'm trying to take my time and work on and figure ways out. I am slowly figuring out ways around it, but it's pretty difficult in time. And I think that's why these things tend to take so much time to do, especially when you're one person doing it, because it's very difficult to explain, but in order to have the film not, be a combination of just still pictures, voiceovers, and news clips, and then that's it, over and over and over again until the end. I'm trying to find interesting ways to not make it just that. The first film, I did it that way, and it worked, and I rushed it out, but I wasn't happy with the final results. If I would have took another 6 months to do it, I probably would have yielded something a little bit better. But this time, I am trying to be conscious about that. So just bear with me as I continue to try and get this thing right. But I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to shove out something mediocre either. I'm gonna work at it till it's done. I've talked about this before. It's a huge lesson for me. Really, kind of one of those things, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things you kind of have to do. It's kind of what this thing's become for me. It's become sort of one of those things you have to do, because when you get on the other side and it's done, you're going to be a better person because of it. And I know that sounds kind of mundane and silly and whatever have you, but it's the truth. If I do feel like that, I feel like if I stick through it and I just be patient and keep working on it, and it'll eventually be right and it'll be worth it. So like I said, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't relate to sometimes, but it is the truth. It is, it just is how it is. Like I said, I'm aware of what it is, and it is teaching me great lessons about, not just settling for something. And it's something like that. Sometimes you feel like you settle for things in life. You know what I mean? You settle for things just for the sake of convenience, or to appease yourself or other people or anything like that. And that's a sort of a difficult lesson to learn, is to, to just not settle for something, well, that's good, and I'll settle for that and I'll be happy with it and blah, 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 it'll be done. No, greatness only comes when you strive for something to not be good enough. It doesn't mean you have to be a freak, freak out and be a control freak and nitpick every little small thing. I won't do that either. In fact, I leave in some little imperfections here and there and stuff that I do just because, I want it to at least feel somewhat real, like a person made it, not just some, machine putting together video clips and stuff. So anyway, that's the update there. And please use the donate button, the chipping banner to support us if you can. We really do need your support right now. So please help out if you can. Thank you. Global Reality Show at gmail.com. Let's see what we have here. Oh, yeah. This is from a person named Bob. It says, Game Changer is the name of the email. It says, Mr. Reeves, most of us are following the news of the attempted prosecution of von Nothaus and the recent disasters in Japan. Yeah, I covered the von Nothaus thing. I think it was always suspect for me. It seemed like a setup from day one. And the recent disasters in Japan. We're told that Japan will, in the near future, be selling their U.S. bonds to be able to pay for the rebuilding efforts in their own country. Well, I think that's a rumors at this point. I don't think that's actually been confirmed. I think it's been named as a possibility. But personally, I don't see why that's going to have to happen or anything else because, it just doesn't seem if that's they've gotten that far to determine whether or not that's going to be a decision. You know what I mean? I mean, they haven't gotten there yet. I guess in the realm of scope of possibilities, yes, it is indeed possible, but it's not a foregone conclusion at this point. Do you remember the story about the Japanese businessman being caught with billions in fake U.S. bonds? Yes. If so, do you think that these bonds are possibly related somehow, or was that issue resolved? That this guy got caught with billions in fake U.S. bonds, and they're going to sell those U.S. bonds off to pay for rebuilding Japan, and then it's going to tank the United States economy? It very well could be, but we'll just probably end up finishing the job that we did. Well, we didn't finish after World War II, to be honest with you, if they do that. But maybe that's the plan. I don't know. At this point, anything could be on the table with these motherfuckers. I mean, they're brutal. They're bloodthirsty. They are somewhat predictable, but also they can be unpredictable. They have both of those qualities at the same time. It is true. So I don't know. It has been speculated that this might be some sort of World War III kickoff. It'd be hard for me to argue with that, but again, I just don't know for sure. That's all I can say. Secondly, I've posted this story elsewhere only to find it disappears every time. I asked what the world would do if it found out that gold was artificially scarce. Don't you think that sure would be a game changer? Well, found out that, what do you mean? That there was actually more of it than they're telling us it is? Artificial scarcity? Well, yeah, I mean, all that stuff about being created to mine gold and all that stuff. It's funny how much gold has just, where does all this gold go? It just goes missing. And then there's this fake gold running around. I don't know. I seem to reason how much real physical gold there is still even left on this planet anymore, to be honest with you. I think it's been shipped off and taken somewhere. I think that's the big thing about 9/11 people don't focus in on. It was a motherfucking gold heist, and a big one. Nate, Nagano Prefecture contains the city of Suwa. Suwa's sister city is St. Louis, Missouri. 2 quakes in as many days. Sendai on 3/11, Nagano on 3/12, within hours after a major earthquake and resulting tsunami hit northern Japan. A 6.6 magnitude earthquake hit Nagano Prefecture on Saturday, March 12th, 2011 at 3:59 a.m. local time. There were no reports of damage or casualties as yet. So, very interesting stuff there. So, allegedly, there was an earthquake that happened near St. Louis, Missouri on the same time that the Japanese earthquake happened. And, of course, St. Louis, Missouri sits smack dab right on the New Madrid fault line. Yeah, that's highly interesting. I mean, yeah, it would lead some towards the idea that this was, helped along with scalar technology or force multiplication technology like HARP or any of that other stuff. Yeah, it very well could be. Your thoughts on whether this all could be motive for Japan's recent disasters if man-made? Do you think they plan to feed us feces, call it atomic gold, monatomic gold, all while laughing their asses off? Again, I don't know, man. Anything could happen, really. Never mind getting us to pay for eating shit, not the normal Monsanto shit either, or figuratively speaking, tyrannical BS. Thank you for all you do to expose the scat bastards. That's the that's the best one I've heard all week. These scat bastards. Yeah, they are scat bastards. They really are. I mean, you know, Bush W. He had a scatological nickname for everybody. Well, I'll just tell Brownie to get it done. I don't care how he does it. Just tell him to get that shit done now. Brownie and Turd Blossom. Tell Turd Blossom I said I'm going to whoop his ass. I like to have my coffee black. Yeah, like I like my women. But tell Turd Blossom it's going to be his ass if he doesn't come in here. Seriously, the guy had shit names for everybody. What kind of shit is that? Shit, that's what it is. Ugh. All right, what else do we have here in the news tonight? Glenn Beck, just as I predicted, leaving Fox News, setting the stage for the return of the big enchilada. Yes, the big enchilada, leaving a spot wide open. Well, hell, they're, you know, like I said, they're both Fox News employees, right? But listen to this. You know, a lot of people, I think, would see this or hear about this Glenn Beck situation. And to me, this is the only reason I even bring this up is because I think a lot of people would think that, you know, okay, well, he's leaving his show or he got kicked off air and he lost all his sponsors. And they try to paint this in a negative light. But this article here entitled Glenn Beck, Fox News is the only one of the only places you'll find truth. It's very interesting if you read down and you actually read this, what it says in this article. And I'll read it for you here. Folks, they're giving this guy a promotion. They're putting him like in charge of some of the programming at the Fox News channel. This is not Glenn Beck, you know, kicked off the air for his opinions or kicked off the air because he lost a bunch of sponsors, which he did, or anything else. This is a guy who has executed the operation flawlessly for these people. Flawlessly. And they're bringing him up, and you know that slot is a perfect slot for a mover like of somebody's caliber like Alex Jones. And I was also, a little birdie told me today that Alex Jones and Ted Anderson said on Alex Jones' show today that they knew, you know, weeks ago this was going to happen. I wonder how they got that information. So listen to this. It says conservative conspiracy host Glenn Beck compared himself to American icon Paul Revere on Wednesday, after announcing that he was leaving Fox News. When I took this job, I didn't take it because it was going to be a career for me. Paul Revere did not get up on that horse and say, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. He got off the horse at some point and fought in the revolution. In typical fashion, Beck ominously warned his viewers that America was heading into deep and treacherous waters. Fox is one of the only places you'll find truth, he said at the end of his show. Spread the word, stick together. And together we will do the right thing for our country and for our world. That just sounds littered with. I'm just reading that shit. I could smell the NLP. Couldn't you? Jesus Christ! I'm gonna have to go fucking take a shower next commercial break or next music break we have. Fuck! I felt NLP slime on me just reading. That was a pure NLP, dude. Pure neuro linguistic programming. I mean, oh my God, blatant. Now, listen to this. Listen to this. This is how you know he's getting a promotion here. Again, this is not some, you know, he's demoted. Oh, they're kicking him off the show. No, dude. They're putting this motherfucker in a position where he's going to be working behind the scenes, being one of the deciding factors what kind of programming goes on the Fox News channel. This is a big promotion. But they'll try to spin it and call him Glenn Beck the Clown. They're moving him up in the operation because he has been a successful operative for the larger, grand scoping New World Order operation. Beck announced plans to transition off his Fox News program in favor of a realigned agreement between Fox and his production company, Mercury Radio Arts. A realigned agreement, meaning they're realigning it from him being a talk show to actually being in production behind the scenes. In this right here, it tells you that. The deal will see Beck's company designing unspecified new media. Beck's company designing unspecified new media for the Fox News channel and other Fox online properties, a news release said. So right there, that's a very, very, and I think a lot of people may skip over that and not see that. You know, I mean, it would be very easy to just, you know, do like I did a minute ago and say, okay, well, this sets the stage for Alex Jones to come in this place. And it very well may, and it probably does. And it seems like they've been grooming him for that and whatever have you. But to me, I mean, yeah, we know that, don't we? I mean, come on. How long have we fucking known that, y'all? Come on. I mean, if it doesn't happen, it'll happen some other time. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's even really worth talking about, because the bigger thing here is that the media is trying to spin this Glenn Beck issue towards, oh, he took a, blah, 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 this is bad, he was fired. No, man. This guy is a slick motherfucker. He has done his job. I personally think that he's been a way more effective operative than Alex Jones, which is probably why he's been in that position in a different way. But I think he's been a way more effective operative because, it's the same thing. It's really the same idea as people with Alex Jones. People just believe it's the illusion that he's somehow real, and that's what people buy into. And, it's funny. We started to see this move, I think, when they took Lou Dobbs out of, these guys are playing hardball, man. They very well could start getting ready to form some sort of, new right conservative hardball group with, Glenn Beck and Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Lou Dobbs and Jesse Ventura and the whole gang. I mean, this very well could be happening right now. We very well could be seeing the beginning stage of this. I would be hard pressed to believe that there aren't politically motivated issues behind the leaving of Glenn Beck there. But it does set the stage for one of their new operatives. And again, it'd be hard to argue with someone if they made the assumption that this may be a possible, because again, Alex Jones has already been an employee of Fox News for several years now. I think 5 or 6, at least 5 years. I think 2007, 2006, maybe something like that. He started doing a show on KLBJ and also, which is a Fox News affiliate. So he's been getting that paycheck there for them for years, and that's what they like to do, is bring somebody in one of the positions that they've already had, in the minor leagues for a while. So again, it wouldn't surprise me, but the one thing I do see here is that there are big political moves going on in the right. They're positioning themselves for something. Now, I don't know whether there's going to be, some sort of inside job operation for an assassination or something like that. Maybe they're planning something like that. I don't know. But it seems that there's a very interesting shift going on where it could be possible that they may be getting ready to install another right winger come 2012 in the elections. Now, don't take that as the gospel. I'm just putting it out there now because of the way that I monitor right-wing politics, because that's what I'm extensively got my nose stuck into, trying to continue to make the Secret Right Volume 2 the best I can. I'm seeing these big moves and these big plays, and Lou Dobbs was a big sign when he left his show. Now Glenn Beck moving it. We had James Dobson, Focus on the Family, I think last year before, he stepped down. Over the past several years, there's been shifts and big moves in the right wing, and you just can't help but think that there's something coming around the corner that these people are going to be involved in a big way. So that's really all I really have to say about the whole issue of Glenn Beck and that. But yeah, it is rather, sometimes you wonder, and I wonder, if it's all worth it. I do. Sometimes I wonder if it's really worth it to continue on and doing the radio show and all that stuff, because you see the moves that these guys are making, and you see the budget that the powers that be are putting into an operation of this size and this magnitude, and then you look and you see what we have to work with versus what they have to work with, and it almost makes you want to quit, because we don't have nearly the resources these people have to combat and reach the amount of people we need to reach. We need a critical mass situation to start happening very soon on this planet. And that's why I'm doing my best every day and everything I can do to raise that awareness. And I know that we have been successful and have had some successes, but they're getting ready to make big moves. And we really need some big counter moves against that. So if you don't have any other reason to, support shows like mine and networks like this, or, I tell you, keep that in mind, because our resources compared to theirs is minuscule. I can't foresee, I don't know. I can't foresee taking these people on with the resources of, $30 or $40 in the bank sometimes. You know what I mean? But the reason that everyone continues on is because at the end of it, there is something that you've never experienced before that is going to be the end result of this. Against insurmountable odds, we continue on. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're having to make all these big shifts now and shift things around and do that, because they are aware of how quickly people are becoming aware of their larger operation, and they're starting to see through their gatekeepers. They're seeing through their shills and their phonies and everything else that are put there to keep people from seeing the real grander picture. Now that people are seeing through that veil, they're scrambling. They're having to try and legitimize every, 2-bit crook and every 2-bit snake oil salesman they can right now and make them look like, the bringers of the revolution, because, they're losing face all over the place. People are figuring out these phonies a lot quicker. It used to be that, it would take some time, or people would start looking into this information and they'd find Alex Jones and get stuck. That's not happening as much anymore. I've even got people that are completely foregoing Alex Jones altogether and coming directly to my show, which is amazing. So that right there tells me that above all, there is a reason to continue, because it is starting to happen. And the tide is starting to turn. It is starting to become, we've exposed, just right here on this show, we've exposed a great big deal of their operation through exposing the ends of it that the intelligentsia of the truth, quote unquote, truth movement doesn't want to talk about. Because, of course, it implicates the people who we have shown undoubtedly are connected to the keepers of the ancient knowledge and the priest class and on and on and on, the mystery religions. So because people are reaching a higher state of awareness and a higher state of information and knowledge, it's pushing them into positions, uncomfortable positions, to where now they have to do anything they can to try and keep this phony system going long enough to achieve their great work. But I think it's going to fail. But they are making moves. Let's continue on here with the news. This is another one. Is it just me? It seems like every day now, every week. And I think this is a part of the same thing, massive consciousness shift. We're heading smack dab towards galactic alignment, and you can feel it every day. It feels it exponentiating. It's the quickening. But it seems almost every week, every day now that I look at the news and I come to the show and I read the news, that we have all sorts of new discoveries, new archaeological discoveries, new science discoveries. And back in 2009, I started noticing with several of the movies that came out that year, number one, the film adaptation of Angels and Demons. Angels and Demons. Opie's come back to haunt you. And the Nicolas Cage film, Knowing. Both of those films had a very strong overtones of the conflict between science and religion. And as soon as I saw both of those, very heavy and very, topical type of films come out in that 1 year, I said, oh my God, that's the sign. They're going to start pushing the merging of science and religion over the next couple of years. And ever since 2009, I can't say that I've seen anything that would negate that opinion that I made almost 2 years ago now, because I've seen a continuation of these stories coming out where, well, for instance, this one, data from a major U.S. atom smasher lab may have revealed a new elementary particle or potentially a new force of nature. One physicist involved in the discovery told the AFP on Wednesday the physics world was abuzz with excitement over findings which could offer clues to the persistent riddle of mass and how objects obtain it, one of the most sought-after answers in all of physics. But experts caution that more analysis was needed over the next several months to uncover the true nature of the discovery, which comes as a part of an ongoing experiment with proton and antiproton collisions to understand the workings of the universe. There could be some new force behind the force that we now know, said Giovanni Punzi, a physicist with the international research team that is analyzing the data from the U.S. Department of Energy's Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. If it is confirmed, it could point to a whole new world of interactions. So what we have here is they're now finding, a new force of nature, new particles. And just like when they found that an atom was empty inside of it, it's just an empty. I believe that these new findings they're going to start telling us about with these new particles and these new elementary particles and a new force of nature is going to start to reveal supernatural and spiritual type things to it. And then this is how they're going to use this as their pretext to bring about one world religion, which at this point is looking very much like it very well could be Scientology. It's the perfect merging of that, the perfect merging of science and religion. It really is. While much remains a mystery, researchers agree that it is not the God particle or the Higgs boson, a hypothetical elementary particle which has long eluded physicists who believe it could explain why objects have mass. The Higgs boson is a piece that goes into the puzzle that we already have, said Punzi, whereas this is something that goes a little bit beyond that, a new interaction, a new force. Punzi said the new observation behaves differently than the Higgs boson, which could be decaying into heavy quarks or particles. So again, more and more of these findings that are coming out every day, and you just feel that it's a fever pitch. It's building up to something. It's building up to manifest itself into something. I think it's going to change everything that everybody on the planet knows. It's coming. We're moving towards that. And that's why we have to be aware of these things that are going to be unleashed upon us, because we're going to have a very narrow window of opportunity where we may possibly be able to turn things around for us on this planet, because when the foundations of the things that they have built up around us come crashing down, when ideologies they have programmed with us come crashing down, there's going to be a very, very knee-jerk reaction to any sort of religious foundations or scientific foundations anymore. People are going to want to go running, kicking, and screaming away from that once they find out that everything they've ever been told about life on Earth, the history of the Earth, religion, everything else has been one big, fat, gigantic fucking lie. And that's what the great thing about researching is. That's what the great thing about wanting the knowledge and being hungry for it and being willing to stay up for days on end researching and making films on this, on less than a shoestring budget and everything else. Because there's going to be, with this, we're we're kind of like the first of our kind here. We're coming farther in our knowledge base and what we understand about the greater structure than probably anybody has in the history of man on this planet. What we're doing here is important, all of us. You'd be hard pressed to say that there has been people that before us in the past that have known more about the true power structure. We are really lucky to have as much information as we have now. We don't even have, we haven't got 10% of the whole picture yet. You know what I mean? Not really. So we're fools and we're destined to be doomed if we don't do something with this. We really are. We're going to take a break and come back. We'll finish up with tonight's news, and we'll move on to reading William Bramley for you here tonight. GlobalRealityShow@gmail.com. It's GlobalRealityShow@gmail.com. If you've got anything you'd like to hear me talk about. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. And I don't know if we'll have a Moonbat show tomorrow night. I may decide to come on and just read a chapter out of the Bramley book. But regardless of that, we're going to have a 2-hour special presentation tomorrow night, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be having William Henry. Two Williams coming on this month. William Henry with us from WilliamHenry.net tomorrow night, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Then we'll have William Bramley with us on Monday, the 18th. So definitely mark both of those dates down on your calendar. Again, support our work at the website, theglobalreality.com. The donate button is there for money that goes towards the films, towards helping us buy equipment and helping us grow and getting the message out to more and more people, doing stuff like buying stickers and stuff like that. I haven't sent stickers out to people yet, so if you indicated you wanted some, you haven't got them yet, we'll be sending those to you. I just haven't had available funds to go to the post office and take care of that yet, but I will, and when I do, you'll get those. But that's it enables us to do that kind of stuff, and I've still got to get pay another $50 to get the new chat room going up, because I'm going to get us a secure chat room where everybody has logins. You have to create an account. Nobody can steal your name. You get your name. We won't have any trolls. Everything's encrypted. So that'll be good when that goes down as well. So use the donate button there to support our work. Any amount, large or small, helps. And we do need your support right now, folks. So please act accordingly. Thank you. Let's see what else we have here out of this news tonight, because I'm really uninterested in the news. I'd really just rather go on to reading Bramley's book. Oh, Gold. I remember I told you 2 years ago. You can go back. Those of you who've been listening to this show for a while will remember this. I told you 2 years ago, 2009, that if gold hit 1,500 an ounce, start selling the fuck out of that shit. Dump it, dump it, dump it, dump it, dump it. And boy, here we go. Gold price hits record high above $1,450 an ounce. We are right at the threshold. I'm telling you, they've been creating an artificial scarcity and artificial, just as the listener had asked me in that email earlier. And then they're going to, because it's an artificial scarcity, they're going to dump the fuck out of it. People are going to lose their ass. They're going to dump the fuck out of it, and then they're going to come in and they're going to buy it up. They're going to change all the currencies, the worldwide currencies around, create their basket of currencies, come up and buy it all up for pennies on the dollar. Oh, yeah. So we're at 1450 right now, and I have officially declared that. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it. The Global Reality Gold Threshold. Sell, 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 sell. Get the fuck out of gold now. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it, you know? No, I mean, they're going to fuck you if you don't. They're going to fuck you if you don't, for sure. Absolutely. So that's all I have to say about that. Here we go. This is a great one. Elementary students feel breast implants. Some angry Henrico parents are demanding answers after their kids were allowed to feel a breast implant at school. It was all part of a Shady Grove Elementary. Well, if it's called Shady Grove, you should have known. Shady Grove Elementary Career Day. Somebody brought breast implants to Career Day at an elementary school. Yeah, I'm surprised the third graders didn't fucking bite through that shit. They're biters. That you see a boob. We found out the kids were supposed to be learning about a career in plastic surgery, but some parents felt that is a bit too much for elementary students. They feel they should have been warned. So we'll chalk that one up to fucked up news of the day. That's oh man, that's out of control. I'm not even gonna say that one on air, Guyman. We'll just leave it at that. I'm trying to see if I've got one. Oh, here you go. Yeah. Well, if that's the case, I should read this one. We'll get Guyman really good mad. Listen to this. What comes first, depression in teens or emo music? Teenagers are more likely to be depressed if they spend a lot of time listening to music, while teens who read a lot are less depressed, according to research. Well, yeah, that's because they're creating shit music. I'd have been depressed too if I would have had that shit to listen to. Luckily, I grew up in, the early 90s in the heart of, the alternative scene coming out, so I was lucky. But my God, yeah, if I was growing up in fucking Linkin Park and My Chemical Romance and all that shit would have been, I would have been depressed too. Fuck that shit. So does that mean that My Chemical Romance is bad for your health, or that multiple replays of The Catalyst by Linkin Park will push an adolescent from moodiness to mental illness? Yes. I would say yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Not necessarily. The researchers don't try to nail down cause and effect, but the fact that depression is a major health problem for teenagers affecting 1 in 12 makes it easier to see why researchers thought it was worth looking into. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, oh, yeah, listening to music, yeah, that's going to make you depressed. No. And aren't you supposed to be, I mean, I don't know. You're going through all of these hormones and everything else. It's just part of it, man, But again, if the music wasn't shite, maybe we wouldn't have depressed teenagers. If it was about artistic creativity, if it was about true expression, then, we wouldn't be having this. But it's not. It's about dark, they create that, the dark, gloomy stuff, yeah. And then I'm depressed, so I listen to dark music. And it's all engineered so that things are down and the vibration is down. And it's not about uplifting anything or making it big. No, we can't have any of that. We have to keep everything dark. And thus that keeps people dark and it keeps people controllable, because once you're in the low vibratory field of existence down in the depths of darkness and you exist there all the time, that makes you a lot more susceptible to bullshit, really. Bullshit people, bullshit friends, bullshit living situations, life situations, jobs, all that shit. But once you decide to pull yourself out of that and take a leap and a bound and a chance on something, you start to see the things open up. So I'm done with this news. There's not a lot of it, any more of it, really. I think that's pretty much it anyway. So I'm done with this news. Let's get into reading Bramley's book here tonight. Chapter 16, Messiahs and Means. In a global civilization such as ours, where spiritual knowledge and freedom appear to have been tampered with, there would obviously be a place for someone to develop a useful and understandable body of knowledge about the spirit and the spirit's relationship to the universe. Because verifiable spiritual phenomena seem to be consistent from person to person from time to time, it is probable that all spiritual realities are rooted in consistent laws and axioms, just like astronomy or physics. If someone were to discover and methodically outline those laws and axioms, he or she would be doing a great service. Such discoveries could open up a whole new science. Would a person who did this be a Messiah? Promises of a Messiah have been put forth by a great many religions, both maverick and custodial. The word Messiah has had several teachings. From simply teacher to liberator, a Messiah could be anyone from a person who develops a successful science of the spirit to someone who is actually able to spiritually liberate the human race. Throughout history, there have been thousands of people claiming to be a Messiah, or they have been given the label by others, even if they did not claim it themselves. Some messianic claims are usually based upon prophecies recorded earlier in history, such as the Buddhist Maitreya legend, the second coming prophecy of the Book of Revelation, the apocalyptic teachings of Zoroaster, or the Hebrew prophecies. Many people look at all messianic claims with outright skepticism. Others become avid followers of a leader whom they believe to be the fulfillment of a religious prophecy. This raises the question, has there ever been or will there ever be a genuine Messiah? How would anybody identify such a person? Anyone who successfully develops a functional science of the Spirit would obviously have a legitimate claim to the title of Messiah in the teacher's sense. There is nothing mystical or apocalyptic about this. A person makes some discoveries and shares them. If this knowledge becomes widely known and results in widespread spiritual salvation, then we enter the realm of the liberator or the prophesied Messiah. How do we identify such a liberator when there exist so many different prophecies with so many different ways to interpret them? The answer is simple. The would-be liberator must succeed. That person must earn the title. It is not God-given. This is a terribly cold and uncompromising way of looking at it. It strips away the magic and mysticism normally associated with messianic prophecy. It forces any person who would claim the title of Messiah to actually bring about peace and spiritual salvation, because such a prophecy is not going to be fulfilled unless someone causes it to happen. This compels the would-be liberator to fully overcome the overwhelming obstacles which act against these universal goals. This is one of the most unbelievable tasks that any person could ever hope to undertake. He need only look at past liberators to appreciate the long, hard road that such a person must travel. To date, no one has succeeded, but it is certainly a challenge worthy of the best talent. When most people envision a Messiah, they see a person dressed in spotless white who thinks, speaks, and behaves balls. Okay. We got a technical issue here. So I'm reading this and I go, this PDF I have is fucked up. Anybody out there got a decent PDF that has pages 168 through 172? Because the copy I'm reading here cuts off at page 168 and drops to page 173, and there's none of the rest of it, and this is not acceptable. So I'll sit here for a minute and look at the chat room. If anybody in the chat room can come in the chat room and put a copy of that has pages 168 to page 172 in it in PDF format in the chat room, that would be great. That's balls. No bueno. And again, that happened. Well, it happened on one of the chapters, but I found out from a listener it was just Bible verses or something, so it wasn't pertinent info. But this is like 4 pages. So yours has missing pages too. Man, that's weird. It makes me feel like people are editing out certain chapters, and then those are the only ones that are available online. Yeah, that's weird. Anybody? Bueller? Well, that can't be the whole chapter if it goes from page 168 to page 173. Because it goes 68, 69, and then it cuts off. And then the next chapter I have is chapter 17, page 173. So obviously that's not the end of the chapter, buddy. I think we have a winner here. Let me look. Scrolling down here, Apocalypse of John, we read that. Muhammad, we read that. Bear with me here. I'm scrolling through. Messiahs and means. Okay, there's 169. No, actually, Nice try, but this is the same as mine. Yeah, it cuts off and goes right to page 173. Wow, that sucks. Huh. Okay, so 70. Well, look, you don't understand, sir. It cuts off. I'm trying to tell you, there's more pages than I have here because the last page I have is page 69, and then the next page after that's 173. And the sentence says, when people envision such a Messiah, they see a person dressed in spotless white who thinks, speaks, and behaves, and then it cuts off, but that's not a complete sentence. So what I'm saying is there's more to it than I have. Oh, well, I guess there's nothing we can do about that. So I guess you're just going to have to buy a copy of William Bramley's book and read those other pages yourself. We'll continue on here. I guess there's nothing I can do. All right, chapter 17, Flying Gods Over America. Here we go. By the time of the Crusades, major dramas had unfolded on the opposite side of the globe. Great civilizations had come and gone on the American continents. It is difficult to study the history of the ancient American civilizations because nearly all original records from those civilizations were destroyed centuries ago. As a result, historians are often confronted with disputes over the most basic facts, such as dates. For example, time estimates regarding the great Mayan civilization have placed it everywhere from 30,000 years ago to 12,000 years ago to only 700 years ago. For the purposes of this book, I will use the dates that are most commonly accepted by modern historians and archaeologists. Many archaeologists believe that the first important North American civilization was the Olmec Society of Mexico. It is estimated to have flourished from about 800 BC until 400 BC. Very little is known about the Olmecs except that they left behind impressive ruins, which included a large pyramid. The existence of the pyramid is strong evidence that there was an interaction between the old and the new worlds in the BC years. The Olmecs are believed to have given birth to the famous Mayan civilization, which followed. The Mayan culture extended from Mexico to Central America and lasted from 300 until 900 AD. Like the Olmecs, the Mayans were fond of building pyramids. Surprisingly, some Mayan pyramids were given a limestone facing, like the earlier pyramids in Egypt. The Mayans also copied the Egyptians by mummifying bodies and by holding similar beliefs about a physical afterlife, according to historian Raymond Cartier. Other analogies with Egypt are discernible in the admirable art of the Mayans. Their mural paintings and frescoes and decorated vases show a race of men with strongly marked Semitic features. Engage in all sorts of activities: agriculture, fishing, building, politics, and religion. Egypt alone has depicted these activities with the same cruel appearance of truth, but the pottery of the Mayans recalls that of the Etruscans, an ancient civilization of Italy. Their bas reliefs remind one of India, and the huge steep stairways of the pyramidal temples are like those in Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Unless they obtained their models from outside, their brains must have been so constructed that they adopted the same forms of artistic expression as all other great civilizations of Europe and Asia. Did civilization then spring from one particular geographical region and then spread gradually in every direction like a forest fire? Or did it appear spontaneously and separately in various parts of the world? Were some races the teachers and others the pupils, or were they all self-taught? Isolated seeds, or one parent stem giving off shoots in every direction? The coincidences are far too strong for the American civilizations to have arisen independently of the old world societies. Jungian theories of collective unconscious are hardly satisfactory. The striking similarities indicate that the American civilization was a part of a global society. Excuse me. Even if ancient American inhabitants were not aware of it, a similar situation exists today. In different cities around the world, we find modern skyscrapers that look remarkably alike no matter where on the globe they stand. From Singapore to Africa to the United States, It can be rather a surprise to see in a remote African nation a tall, glassy skyscraper that is virtually identical to a skyscraper in Chicago. The surrounding culture, however, may be radically different in each country, indicating that the skyscraper in Africa is not a product of the native African culture, but is the product of an independent global influence. A similar global influence clearly existed more than a millennium ago, as evidenced by the remarkable similarities between ancient Mayan and Egyptian cultures. That global influence appears to have been the custodial society, because as soon as we review ancient American writings, we encounter once again our custodial friends. Custodians were worshipped by ancient Americans as human-like gods who hailed from other worlds. As in the Eastern Hemisphere, custodians in America were eventually distinguished by a cloak of mythology. As in Egypt and Mesopotamia, custodial servants in America were the priests, who held considerable political power because of their special relationship to mankind's reported extraterrestrial masters. It is therefore not surprising to find evidence that the brotherhood existed in the ancient Americas. For example, the snake was an important religious symbol throughout the ancient Western Hemisphere. Several Freemasonic historians claim evidence of early Masonic rites in pre-Columbian societies. The brotherhood symbol of the swastika was also prominent, as Professor W. Norman Brown of the University of Pennsylvania points out on page 27 of his book, The Swastika, a study of the Nazi claims of its Aryan origin. A curious problem lies in the presence of the swastika in America before the time of Columbus. It is frequent in northern, central, and southern America and has many variant forms. The American civilizations had a similar history to that of the Old World. It was filled with wars, genocides, and calamities. Cities and religious centers in ancient America came and went. One thing that remained consistent was the building of pyramids. The Toltecs, a civilization which arose from the Mayan society, continued the pyramid building tradition and constructed the fabulous Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. This pyramid is larger than that of the Great Pyramid of Egypt in sheer bulk and is crafted with the same stone-cutting precision that characterizes its Egyptian counterpart. When the Spaniards invaded America in the 16th century, they deliberately destroyed nearly everything they could of the ancient American cultures except for the gold and precious metals which were shipped to Spain. At that time in history, the Inquisition was at the height, and Spain was its most zealous advocate. The ancient Americans were considered pagan, and so Christian missionaries engaged in an energetic campaign to destroy all records and artifacts related to the American religions. Unfortunately, those records included priceless history and science texts. The effect of this obliteration was much like the destruction of the Alexandrian Library by Christians earlier. It created a substantial blackout regarding some of mankind's ancient history. This has left a great many unanswered questions about the Mayans. For example, the Mayans built many fabulous religious centers and then abandoned them. Some historians believe that the abandonment was done suddenly and that its cause remains a mystery. Others conclude that it was done gradually by the Mayan society as the Mayan society decayed. The Mayans were also known to practice human sacrifice. Some historians believe that the sacrifices were an intelligent ritual. Others say the sacrifices amounted to full-scale genocide, claiming 50,000 lives per year. Where does the truth lie? That's a very interesting question. But, unfortunately, it's a question we're going to have to wait until after the next break here, because I need a break and I need a breather and blah, I need to get a drink and take a breather for a minute. So, I'm going to take a breather. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We're going to continue reading out of William Bramley's book, The Gods of Eden, page 177 here. Stick around. Make some more coffee. Stay up late with us tonight. We're getting Moonbatty, motherfuckers, right here on the Global Reality Radio. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Late night Moonbat edition for you here. Now we're going to jump back into reading William Bramley's The Gods of Eden for you here tonight. And it's been a very interesting read. I'm sorry that we have the little blockage there with not getting to read little bits, but you can go back and get a hard copy of that yourself and read it. But I don't know. It just makes you wonder. It makes you feel like people are editing that out, certain things out of there. I'll have to ask Mr. Bram if he's aware of that when we have him on the 18th. But again, let's jump back into this now. One book has surfaced which purports to be a record of ancient Mayan beliefs. It is known as the Popol Vuh, the Council Book. The Popol Vuh is not a genuinely ancient work. It was first written in the 16th century by an unknown Mayan. It was later translated into Spanish by Father Francisco Jimenez of the Dominican Order. Jimenez's translation was first published in Vienna in 1857, and it is the earliest surviving version of the Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh is said to be a collection of Mayan beliefs and legends as they had been passed down orally through the centuries. It is clear, however, that many Christian ideas were incorporated into the work, either by the original unknown Mayan author or by Father Jimenez, or both. It's also obvious that the Popol Vuh contains many tales of pure fiction mixed in with what is said to be the true story of the creation of man. Nevertheless, several segments of the Popol Vuh are worth considering because they repeat important religious and historical themes we have seen elsewhere, but with far greater sophistication than is found in Christian writings. Those themes are expressed by the Popol Vuh within the context of the multiple gods of the ancient Mayans. The Popol Vuh states that mankind had been created to be servants of the gods, and the gods are quoted as saying, "Let us make him, and who shall nourish and sustain us? What shall we do to be invoked in order to be remembered on earth? We have already tried with our first creations, our first creatures, but we could not make them praise and venerate us. So then let us try to make obedient, respectful beings who will nourish and sustain us." Sounds like somebody trying to make themselves God to me. I don't know about you. I don't know how you fucking slice it. According to the Popol Vuh, the gods had made creatures known as figures of wood before creating Homo sapiens. Said to look and talk like men, these odd creatures of wood existed and multiplied. They had daughters, they had sons. They were, however, inadequate servants for the gods. To explain why, the Popol Vuh expresses a sophisticated spiritual truth not found in Christianity, but which is found in earlier Mesopotamian writings. The figures of wood did not have souls. This relates to the Popol Vuh, and so they walked on all fours aimlessly. In other words, without souls or spiritual beings to animate the bodies, the gods found that they had created living creatures which could biologically reproduce, but which lacked the intelligence to have goals or direction. The gods destroyed their figures of wood. It's figures of wood in parentheses, figures of wood, and held lengthy meetings to determine the shape and composition of their next attempt. The gods finally produced creatures to which spiritual beings could be attached. That new and improved creature was Homo sapiens. Creating Homo sapiens did not end custodial headaches, however. According to the Popol Vuh, the first Homo sapiens were too intelligent and had too many abilities. The first Homo sapiens were endowed with intelligence. They saw, and instantly they could see far. They succeeded in seeing. They succeeded in knowing all that there is in the world. When they looked, instantly they saw all around them, and they contemplated in turn the arc of heaven and the round face of earth. But the Creator and the Maker did not hear this with pleasure. It is not well that our creatures, our works, say they know all, the large and the small, they said. Something had to be done. Humans, and by implication the spiritual beings that animate human bodies, needed to have their level of intelligence reduced. Mankind had to be made more stupid. Well, they succeeded in that. The Popol Vuh then tells in symbolism what custodians did to early Homo sapiens to reduce human intelligence and intellectual vision. Then the heart of heaven blew mist into their eyes, which clouded their sight as when a mirror is breathed upon. Their eyes were covered, and they could see only what was close, only that which was clear to them. In this way, the wisdom and all the knowledge of the four men were destroyed. The above passage echoes the biblical Adam and Eve story, in which revolving swords had been placed to block human access to important knowledge. It also suggests a custodial intention that human beings should never learn about the world beyond the obvious and superficial. Again, all of my 15 years of research points in that direction. That's exactly what they've done. That's what all of this is about. That's where the true enslavement is, not all this banker stuff and all the rest of that. Those are just extensions of that. But the fact that we are continually lied to and kept as children, kept in the dark, is where the true control factors come from. The Popol Vuh contains another element worth mentioning because it reflects the muddling of languages theme of the biblical Tower of Babel story. The Popol Vuh relates that various gods spoke different languages, with the ancient Mayan tribes were compelled to adopt whenever they fell under the new rule of a new god. Even in the New World, humans were broken into different linguistic groups by the custodial gods. By the time the Spaniards first landed in Americas in the late 15th century, the custodial gods were no longer directly visible in human affairs and had not been around so far for centuries. Although UFOs continued to be observed around the world, people no longer viewed them as vehicles of the gods. The custodial race assumed a low profile, which made it seem as though that they had left Earth and gone back home. Unfortunately, they still remained, as the next and most perhaps ominous chapter reveals. And we're going to continue on here. Chapter 18, The Black Death. The centralization of papal power culminated under Pope Innocent IV, who held the papal reigns from 1243 until 1254. Pope Innocent attempted to turn the papacy into the world's highest political authority by proclaiming that the Pope was the vicar of the Creator to whom every human creature is subjected. It was under Innocent IV that the Inquisition was made an official institution of the Roman Catholic Church. Despite the oppression of the Inquisition, Europe in the 13th century was beginning to recover from the economic and social disruption caused by the Crusades. Signs of a European Renaissance were visible in the widening of intellectual and artistic horizons. Trade with other parts of the world did much to enrich European life. Europe was entering into an era in which chivalry, music, art, and spiritual values were playing greater roles. Hardly a century of this progress had passed, however, before a disastrous event abruptly brought to it a temporary halt. That event was the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death. The Black Death began in Asia and soon spread to Europe, where it killed well over 25 million people, about one-third of Europe's total population. It did so in less than 4 years. Some historians put the casualty figure closer to 35 to 40 million people, or about half of all Europeans. The epidemic first spread through Europe between 1347 and 1350. The bubonic plague continued to strike Europe with decreasing fatality every 10 to 20 years and short-lived outbreaks all the way up until the 1700s. Although it is difficult to calculate the total number of deaths from that 400-year period, it is believed that over 100 million people may have died from the plague. My God, that's ancient eugenics right there. This eugenics stuff goes back all the way back to the custodial races, to the dawn of time, all the way back to the Sumerians, folks. See, this is why Alex Jones won't talk about the IAAEE, the International Association for the Advancement of Ethnology and Eugenics. This is why he won't talk about that group. Because they're based where? Edinburgh, Scotland, exactly where the Knights Templar fled after they were burned at the stake and the rest of that stuff. That's where they set up Freemasonry. That's also the true home of eugenics. But again, Jones and the Truthers won't talk about that because it connects directly to people like Roger Pearson, who then connects directly to Willis Carto, head of the Liberty Lobby, who Jim Tucker writes for, and that other clown that thinks the Jews run everything. I mean, it's a total spook op. And this goes back all the way to that. 2 types of plague are believed to have caused the Black Death. The first is the bubonic type, which was the most common. The bubonic form of plague is characterized by swellings of the lymph nodes. The swellings are called buboes. The buboes are accompanied by vomiting, fever, and death within several days if not treated. This form of the plague is not contagious between human beings. It requires an active carrier, such as a flea. For this reason, many historians believe that flea-infested rodents caused the bubonic plague. Rodents are known to carry the disease even today. A number of records from between 1347 and the late 1600s speak of rodent infestations prior to several outbreaks of the Black Death, lending credence to the rodent theory. The second form of plague contributing to the Black Death is a highly contagious type known as pneumonic plague. It is marked by shivering, rapid breath, and the coughing up of blood. Body temperatures are high, and death normally follows 3 to 4 days after the disease has been contracted. The second type of plague is nearly always fatal and transmits best in cold weather and in poor ventilation. Some physicians today believe it was this second form, the pneumonic plague, which was responsible for most of the casualties of the Black Death because of the crowding and poor hygienic conditions that were then prevalent in Europe. We would normally shake our heads at this tragic period of human history and be thankful that modern medicine has developed cures for these dreaded diseases. However, troubling enigmas about the Black Death still linger. Many outbreaks occurred in summer during warm weather in uncrowded regions. Not all outbreaks of bubonic plague were preceded by rodent infestations. In fact, only a minority of cases seem to be related to an increase in the presence of vermin. The greatest puzzle about the Black Death is how it was able to strike isolated human populations which had no contact with earlier infected areas. The epidemics also tended to end abruptly. To solve these puzzles, a historian would normally look to records from the plague years to see what people were reporting. When he does so, he encounters stories so stunning and unbelievable that he is likely to reject them as the fantasies and superstitions of badly frightened minds. A great many people throughout Europe and other plague-stricken regions of the world were reporting that outbreaks of the plague were caused by foul-smelling mists. Those mists frequently appeared after unusually bright lights in the sky. The historian quickly discovers that mists and bright lights were reported far more frequently and in many more locations than were rodent infestations. The plague years were in fact a period of heavy UFO activity. What then were the mysterious mists? There is another very important way in which plague germs can be transmitted: through germ weapons. The United States and the Soviet Union today have stockpiles of biological weapons containing bubonic plague and other epidemic diseases. The germs are kept alive in canisters which spray the diseases into the air on thick, often visible artificial mists. Anyone breathing in the mist will inhale the disease. There are enough such germ weapons today to wipe out a good portion of humanity. Reports of identical disease-inducing mist from the plague years strongly suggest that the Black Death was caused by germ warfare. Let us take a look at the incredible report which leads to that conclusion. The first outbreak of the plague in Europe followed an unusual series of events. Between 1298 and 1314, 7 large comets were seen over Europe. One was of awe-inspiring blackness. 1 year before the first breakout of the epidemic in Europe, a column of fire was reported over the Pope's palace in Avignon, France. Earlier that year, a ball of fire was observed over Paris. It reportedly remained visible to observers for some time. To the people of Europe, these sightings were considered omens of the plague, which soon followed. It is true that some reported comets, and were probably just that, comets, but some may have also been small meteors or fireballs. Centuries ago, people were generally far more superstitious than they are today, and so natural meteors and similar prosaic phenomenon were often reported as precursors to later disasters, even though there was no real-life connection. Or was there? Dun, 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 dun. On the other hand, it is important to note that almost any unusual object in the sky was called a comet. A good example is found in a best-selling book published in 1557, A Chronicle of Prodigy's Importunance by Conrad Laskosthenes. On page 494 of the book, we read, a comet observed in the year 1479. A comet was seen in Arabia in the manner of a sharply pointed wooden beam. The accompanying illustration, which was based on eyewitness description, shows what clearly looks like the front half of a rocket ship among some clouds. The object appears to have many portholes. Today, we would call the object a UFO, not a comet. This leads us to wonder how many other ancient comets were actually similar rocket-like objects. When we are confronted with an old report of a comet, we therefore generally do not really know what kind of a thing we are dealing with unless there is a fuller description. A report of a sudden increase in comets or of similar celestial phenomena may in fact mean an increase in UFO activity. The link between unusual aerial phenomenon and the Black Death was established immediately during the first outbreaks of the plague in Asia, as one historian tells us. The first reports of the plague came out of the East. They were confused, exaggerated, frightening, as reports from that quarter of the world so often are. Descriptions of storms and earthquakes, of meteors and comets trailing noxious gases that killed trees and destroyed the fertility of the land. The above passage indicates that strange flying objects were doing more than just spreading disease. They were also apparently spraying chemical or biological defoliants from the air. The above passage echoes the ancient Mesopotamian tablets, which describe defoliation of the landscape by ancient custodial gods. My God, they were spraying chemtrails back then. I've said it once, I've said it again. I mean, how much more proof do you need? They've been spraying us with shit for centuries. I mean, this explains why. I mean, there are some times when you are zooming in on a camera on a chemtrail plane, the plane just disappears, folks. People have speculated for years this is some sort of extraterrestrial program. It may very well be. Many human casualties from the Black Death may have been also caused by such defoliants. The connection between aerial phenomenon and plague had begun centuries before the Black Death. We saw examples in our earlier discussion of Justinian's plague. We read from another source about a large plague that had reportedly broken out in the year 1117, almost 250 years before the Black Death. That plague was also preceded by unusual celestial phenomena. In 1117, in January, a comet passed like a fiery army over the north towards the Orient. The moon was overcast, blood red in an eclipse. A year later, a light appeared more brilliant than the sun. This was followed by a great cold, famine, and plague, of which 1/3 of humanity is said to have perished. Once the medieval Black Death got started, noteworthy aerial phenomena continued to accompany the dread epidemic. Reports of many of these phenomena were assembled by Johannes Knoll and published in his book, The Black Death, A Chronicle of the Plague. In the year 1606, a comet was seen, after which a general plague traversed the world. In 1582, a comet brought so violent a plague upon Maho, Prague, Thuringia, the Netherlands, and other places that in Thuringia it carried off 37,000, and in the Netherlands 46,415 carried off. As if it swooped down and took them up in a craft. That's a very strange description. From Vienna, Austria, we get the following description of an event that happened in 1568. Here we see a connection between an outbreak of plague and an object described in a manner remarkably similar to a modern cigar or beam-shaped UFO. Sightings of unusual aerial aircraft phenomenon usually occurred from several minutes to a year before an outbreak of the plague. Where there was a gap between such a sighting and the arrival of the plague, a second phenomenon was sometimes reported: the appearance of frightening human-like figures dressed in black. These figures were often seen on the outskirts of a town or a village, and their presence would signal the outbreak of an epidemic almost immediately. A summary written in 1682 tells of one such a visit a century earlier. In Brandenburg, in Germany, there appeared in 1559 horrible men, of whom at first 15 and later on 12 were seen. The foremost had beside their posteriors little heads, the others fearful faces and long scythes with which they had cut at the oats so that the swish would be heard at a great distance. But the oats remained standing. When a quantity of people came running out to see them, they went on with their mowing. The visit of the strange men to the oat fields was followed immediately by a severe outbreak of the plague in Brandenburg. This incident raises intriguing questions. Who were the mysterious figures? What were the long scythe-like instruments that they held that emitted a loud swooshing sound? It appears that the scythes may have been long instruments designed to spray poison or germ-laden gas. This would mean that the townspeople misinterpreted the movement of the skies as an attempt to cut oats, when in fact the movements were the act of spraying aerosols on the town. Similar men dressed in black were reported in Hungary. In the year of Christ, 1571, was seen at cremats in the mountain towns of Hungary on Ascension Day in the evening, to the great perturbation of all, when on the Schlüsselberg there appeared so many black riders that the opinion was prevalent that the Turks were making a secret raid, but who rapidly disappeared again, and thereupon a raging plague broke out in the neighborhood. Strange men dressed in black, demons, and other terrifying figures were obscured in the European communities. The frightening creatures were often observed carrying long brooms, scythes, or swords, and they were used to sweep or knock at the doors of people's homes. The inhabitants of these homes fell ill with the plague afterwards. It is from these reports that people created the popular image of death as a skeleton or demon carrying a scythe. Yeah, the Grim Reaper, that's where that comes from. The scythe came to symbolize the act of death, mowing down people like stalks of grain. In looking at this haunting image of death, we may in fact be staring into the face of a UFO. Phew, lots of reading there tonight. We're going to leave it right there for tonight. I'm plumb out of breath, but some good reads tonight. We got through quite a bit of the book there for you here tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here for you on the Global Reality Radio Network. I will be interviewing for 2 hours author, lecturer, researcher William Henry. William Henry, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow night. You definitely want to tune in for that show. It's going to be a great show. Send your emails to globalrealityshow@gmail.com. Put question for William Henry in the subject, and I will do my best to address those. I need your support right now. I need your help. We're low on funds, folks. Dangerously low on funds, so we need your support right now. globalrealityshow@gmail.com, theglobalreality.com. Use the donate button or the chip in banner, either one. But please support our work. We need it more than ever. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time for the broadcast. You guys have a good night. Take care.